I'm not an elite athlete. So for me, I don't actually need an excessive amount of carbs. I just need to be satiated and I need to have a decent amount of nutritional density just from a balanced diet. What is the best to eat before a workout? And I love this question because I remember looking back, like I'd get picked up from like daycare as a kid. And I remember my mother would have like a big bowl of pasta for me ready to go. And I'd be playing hockey in like 30 minutes. And I had no issue doing that. And I would always do that. And I know other people that'd be like, I would be so sick if I were to have that much food right before. And it even makes me think of The Office when Michael says he's carving up with the fettuccine Alfredo, I think, and he's eating a bunch of it and he gets super sick from it. And I think a lot of people have these hesitations of like, should I eat? I want energy, but also I don't want to eat too much and not feel myself. So I love this question and I have my thoughts. So I guess I'll go ahead and start with that. So the first thing to me is time frame. So obviously you want food in your system when you lift. I know some people like to train fasted, and if that's something you can do, power to you. There's nothing wrong with that, but I find most people can't. I don't know what the percentage would be, but I've had a lot of clients, especially when I personal trained, who would get a little lightheaded all of a sudden. They'd never had that before, and I'd say, well, like, what's going on? Did you eat? And they're like, no, I haven't eaten anything. And it's like, well, there you go. And usually it's food or hydration that really ends up messing you up, because when you work out, your body's burning glycogen, it's utilizing this fuel and it needs energy from somewhere. And if you're depriving it of that before a session, you're limiting yourself. But at the same time, oftentimes you don't have a long enough window to get in enough food. So for me, what I usually recommend is a carb source is a great thing to have intra-workout. It's funny, even powerlifting meets where we would need more carbs, more energy, we'd have fun things like sugary candies and different things. And that's where powerlifting culture gets this kind of weird focus, because you kind of have this burst strength and you can kind of sneak in a little bit of extra carbs, if you will. But for most people, that wouldn't be realistic because that wouldn't support their nutritional goals. So what I'll recommend, if you have a really tight time frame, like you're going right first thing in the morning, just really basic, really simple, really gentle on your stomach. So something like a banana is such a great opportunity. You're gonna get some easy carbs. It's not a ridiculous amount of calories. That plus some water will at least give you something to burn through. And if you find you're getting lightheaded or you're deathly hungry and you can't focus in your workout, you could actually look to eat more food. If you have more time, like an hour to 2 hours plus, a full meal is obviously going to be best. And with a snack or a meal, you're obviously going to want to be aiming for a balance of nutrients. So carbs obviously are really good to utilize in the gym, but if we're in a balanced diet and we're not doing excessive training, you're not going to need an excess of carbs. I've used the example in the past, like an NFL player will need more carbs than I ever will. Yes, I train hard. Yes, I'm killing it in the gym for 90 minutes, but outside of that, I do some walks and I'm pretty sedentary. I'm not an elite athlete. So for me, I don't actually need an excessive amount of carbs. I just need to be satiated and I need to have a decent amount of nutritional density just from a balanced diet. So for me, I'll look for a carb source. I'll make sure I'm getting a little protein in each meal, which is also going to help me feel more full, help with recovery, and it's going to help support me hitting my protein goals that day. And then fats can also be another great, amazing thing to have before your workouts, because it'll actually burn a little bit slower. It'll keep you full potentially a little bit longer, depending on the type of fat you do have. So that is something to consider as well. So for myself, I train at 9:30. I have my breakfast about an hour and a half before. That's where I feel best. I feel it digest. I don't feel lethargic, and I feel like I'm in a good spot where I have a lot of energy. I can complete that workout without any of those issues, and I can also complete it without being hungry. Because if you're hungry and you're rushing out of the gym to eat, that is also a detriment. So that is my simple answer. And like I said, if you're in a huge rush too, smoothies are another great option because it's very easily digestible because it's in liquid form. The things that are going to be more complicated and really burn you down are like really oily, fatty foods, really heavy foods, really foods that are just going to really jack up your glycemic index. So these are all things you want to be careful of. And sometimes simple carbs too will leave people feeling very lethargic. So if you have very basic things as well, that's something to consider because you will burn through it quite fast. So unless you're like running a marathon or something, you don't really need like liquid gel carbs before your workout. So those are my thoughts, and hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, I think some people like on two different ends, they make the common mistake of like either having too much. So like I love my Chipotle bowl. We'll have it every day, and that's after our workout. But if you were to give me that before my workout, I would feel sluggish. I'd feel slow. I'd feel probably a little bit lazy. Maybe just, there's beans in there. Probably wouldn't feel too great. Like you have to really just do a lot of trial and error, truthfully. And then on the other end, I think if you just don't eat anything, like There are some people, don't get me wrong, if you roll out of bed, you wake up and you go to work out and it's like pretty immediate and you ate beforehand, like the night before, and you still have everything in your system and you feel great with that. There is definitely a small percentage that's totally cool with that. Now, I did want to cover the whole fasted training because I've covered it on a YouTube video and it's pretty out there where a lot of people believe there's tons of benefits. I really think there's honestly no benefits aside from maybe helping you preserve more calories for later. Like, let's say if you get up early and you don't eat and you don't want to eat and you're not hungry and you don't think about food and it doesn't affect your workouts, power to you. Like, there's no problem at all. Like, you are totally fine there. It's not going to ruin your results. You'll save calories for after. You can eat post workout. That's totally cool. But I think most people will benefit from 2 to 500 ish calories beforehand, and I think they'll be able to have more energy and you're going to push longer and you're going to have more strength, and that will be the most people. And I really want to encourage you to try different things, like that Greek yogurt power bowl that we shared on Instagram recently. That's about, it could be to between 300 to 6 something depending on how you make it. Amazing. Like, I wouldn't want to change it. I feel incredible from that. Some people may not love it, right? So try different things and pay attention to how you feel. Like, people will try different things and they'll just be like, oh, I'm just giving it a shot, but they never are aware of like what's going on and how they feel within that day. And maybe you'll notice like you're 30 minutes in and you have a big pit in your stomach and it's holding you back. It's like, all right, we might need a bit more food beforehand and, maybe cut calories later in the day. Like, paying attention and trying these things makes such a big difference on your journey.
Incredibly well said. And that's one thing I'll also recommend to some clients is if you really don't have time in the morning to eat and you're training in and around the morning, utilize the night of the day before. Obviously, you'll weigh in a little bit heavier, but you will have more food in your system that obviously you can use. And that's where all this is so nuanced and it is so case by case because everyone is extraordinarily different. And perhaps you are a marathoner who's also lifting because you're an animal and you're trying to be a hybrid athlete. Like, you could perhaps need more like intragels and different options to keep you at the caloric amount you need. So there are a lot of things to consider, but I feel like the best thing of all is trial and error. See where you feel the best, what keeps you the most grounded, which balances you, what sits with you well. Like I said, in the past, I don't know anymore, but pasta felt fine to me. And if it felt fine too, there's also that mental component. If I feel fine, I can operate fine. Perhaps was it the most optimal? Probably not, but it's hard to live your life doing everything that's most optimal. You need to do what fits within your schedule and be realistic and be consistent.